Alright guys, no promises on echo. Hopefully we don't have one. But let's do a check and see. We do not have one. We did take the camera with us. Welcome back. Hopefully you guys see and hear everything. I'm getting logged in. We'll get right back into this. No echo? We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Excellent. That's rare. All right. So, welcome back. I'm not going to watch the chat right away, so if you guys are trying to communicate with me, you can kind of hold the questions to the end. What I want to do tonight is take everybody kind of through CES from kind of start to finish. I have some video that I can queue up on the laptop here. That's what the why the screen's plugged in there. We'll be showing you guys the new Gigabyte 12 GPU mining board. I got that video here. It's not edited, but it's not a big deal. We're going to be doing an episode around that anyways. The day 2 and 3, the last few days that we were there, I'm going to have a proper episode, not just a 2-minute like with some music. We're going to do a proper episode for that because that was the day on the floor, and that was the day really interacting with different people in booths and stuff. I would say from a cryptocurrency mining side, the stuff that you guys really care about. But I want to go through the kind of start to finish, landing in Las Vegas, going through the 2 media days, and then going through a few days on the floor at CES, coming from the concept of cryptocurrency mining, you know, education side from people, just trying to bring people into the space, and then give you guys kind of the insight, the ideas, all the different things of the interactions that we had while we were out there. And if you kind of followed us on Twitter during the visit out there, you got to see kind of those different interactions. I did try to do some live streaming through Periscope on Twitter. It was a little grainy. There was a lot of people in Vegas, obviously, so we didn't get to a lot. But I think it was an average day was walking probably anywhere from 21,000 to 37,000 steps, which is a lot from me. I actually, from the time that the beginning of the year to now, I've already lost 16 pounds. So I've been on this kind of diet thing to try to get a little more slim. I'm getting there. I still got a long way to go, but it really helped the diet piece there, just drinking a lot of water and running all over Vegas trying to get content for everybody. But I wanted to not have the screen up to where I could see chat and all that just yet. We got it on the video, so I'll be able to go through it later, or if you guys had questions that don't get answered in here. But I wanted to go from start to finish, kind of how everything kind of laid out, and then we can get into some question and answer on it, because I imagine you guys got lots of questions and answers. So day 1, heading out to Las Vegas. We shot out there on a Saturday. Essentially, the media days, the way CES is set up, is it started on a Tuesday and ended essentially on a Friday. We went out there ahead of time on Saturday, a day before the media days started, which means the CES is set up to where the world's media, and just because it is a very worldwide event, can get out there for 2 days, get exposure to some of the content ahead of the kind of masses that come in, all the industry partners that come out there, and kind of get those videos that you get to see on the opening day. That's why there's nobody around like CNET and TechCrunch and all those folks, because they get special access out onto the floor. They get special access to the key individuals that will give, you know, their spiel, their marketing spiels. That's essentially what Media Day is out there. And us, as coming out as a tech YouTuber in general, we're out there, we're registered. Our credentials weren't there, weren't in the system yet, but we flew out there at night early just to see if we could get our badges squared away. So Saturday got in a little too late to get the badges squared away, so we were up first thing on Sunday morning, went out to the registration booth and had to work our way to the media registration and then set our credentials up. The good thing is now we're in the system, and given the longevity of the YouTube channel, since it's been around since 2013, I mean, we were right at that threshold of We have the views per month. Like our average views are pretty good for this channel, but our subscribers are pretty low. I mean, I value all you guys that come out and watch us and subscribe, and you guys that have helped us kind of grow pretty decently this last year. We were right on that edge to where they kind of looked at it like, you're not really, like a tech crunch, but given that you've been around for a long time and given that it's an educational kind of, platform to where we're not doing a lot of speculation stuff, we're just observing and reporting by and large, they kind of came back to the front and then awarded us a badge that was a key online influencer. You're going to toss that over to me? And Miss BBT cannot throw. So essentially, it was this little blue thing at the bottom. Everybody that got badges, here, you know what? I can switch it to this little thing because give you guys kind of an example of what goes on here, how this stuff works. Essentially, what they do. So that little blue badge, unbeknownst to me, gave us access to everything. So that's a pretty cool one to get if you are a tech YouTuber. You're in this space, and we'll get into why I think it's a big deal if you go out there in future CESs. But if like you're, some of the folks that follow us, I think Son of Tech, Voscoin, some of the other ones that are out there, if you're ever thinking about CES, you can drop us a line and I'll show you guys how to make sure that you do your profile to set up to get that. You want that because it gets you access to all the tracks. And the tracks are the things that normally, like normal CES is for people is like $1,000+. The basic badge is like $500. The media pass is free. So if you're going to be out there covering the event, it's free. And then if you're a key online influencer, you get access to all of the different events. So like the digital money track, the digital finance and money track, the blockchain track that we covered on both on Media Day 2 and on CES Day 1, we had access to. That was like a $1,700 normal purchase thing. So what that allowed us to do is to get in there and interact with those folks that were presenting, on the subject matter that we're mining for, which is huge. And that's why I want to get into and talk to some of the discussions that we had with their outlooks on cryptocurrencies in general, and even very specifically to some of the cryptocurrencies we were talking about, along with other things that we didn't even have an understanding that was going on in the ecosystem, both from a regulatory standpoint and just from payments in general of how to use cryptocurrencies. We'll get into that in a minute. But I highly recommend, if any other YouTubers are thinking about it next year, that when that comes up for availability to get access, you're essentially paying for your hotel and your flights out there, but your access to CES is open from a coverage standpoint. So getting badge was kind of the goal on Media Day 1, and then Media Day 1 started about noon to where you could get into the facility, and essentially they set up a range of different conferences that were just setting the media up with what was going to happen at CES. So it was a very interesting backdoor kind of look at how such a large event gets kind of set up, and how the media, it kind of lets the media figure out where they're going to go. And a lot of teams like CNET and TechCrunch and those folks brought tons of different people that kind of just spread out to cover the main key things of their particular area. So one of them that we went to for the media event was something called Living in Digital Times. And on our video last night, and then on this video in the description, I had placed in there the Facebook forum link, essentially, that had all of their media was covered during that entire forum through a company called Wowza Media. So they actually live streamed it for free, which was pretty cool. And that was the $1,700 track, so both the media day and through CES, all the different talks that were there were actually covered for free on that Facebook site. So it allowed you to listen. You couldn't really participate, obviously, but you could at least listen to it. And we have a lot of those links that I'm going to cover through some of the content of where, because a couple of them are like 2 hour long. So I'm going to give you some timestamps of where there's some really good relevant stuff when it comes to cryptocurrencies. But that was essentially that first day, which I was really surprised because it was kind of like the Masters of Ceremony CES person came out and said, was going through a lot of the key elements that were going to be covered at CES. Now, obviously, you got a lot of products and technology. This is kind of an unveiling of all the different, LG, Samsung, all those things. But really, what's the tone? And in the tone, there was really three main keywords that were used. It was blockchain, AI, and machine deep learning. That was going to be the tone through all of CES. And the blockchain one really struck me because right with that blockchain presentation, they came in and showed digital currency. And it showed it kind of like this slide that was kind of crashing with the revolutionary, with the evolutionary, with traditional payment systems and cryptocurrencies. And they had this slide that had everything kind of linked out of like Lisk and a lot of the cryptocurrencies. They had Dogecoin on there, Zencash, Zcash, Monero. I'm sitting here looking in this big world media room, looking at a slide in front of all these people, and here are all these coins that we mine, right? So it was exciting to see as I kind of took a gander around that audience and just like looked at their expression when kind of the Masters of Ceremonies here is talking about how revolutionary cryptocurrency was in 2017. And mind you, it wasn't about the rapid price increase. They were more focused on the technology and what it enabled, right? So that enablement is really what gives the cryptocurrency not just a validation, but they're looking for ways to integrate it with payment sources and how to create counterparty exchange, how to create better exchanges for people to leverage and use their currency. So that was a very interesting visualization at such a large audience that normally wasn't the demographic that would be covering at least cryptocurrency and the digital revolution of like a blockchain tech. So there was a couple of key things said in that presentation. Our media day one coverage, I actually have that presentation. It's a little grainy. It was a very dark room. The camera that I was using doesn't have a lot of really good low light it was just actually it was a really horrible video. But at least the audio was decent, and there was this dude sitting in front of me, and it was kind of like I couldn't go like this because I had media behind me. But you guys can get the gist of it if you hear it. And why that's relevant, why that matters, is that they call out very specific cryptocurrency, and that it's going to be changing everything, especially in 2018. So from an industry outlook, it's big because this is the counterparty. We're mining, even if you're just heads down, you don't know a lot about it, to know that the industry is looking at it and talking about it, and there's slide decks at one of the largest conventions in the entire world when it comes to technology. It's a huge thing. So that was media day one, really setting the media up in tone with the AI, deep learning, and blockchain tech. The end of day one really kind of came, we thought was going to come to a bad end because the big keynote piece, there was two unveilings. Like we went to one of the unveilings that was part of that first video that we made, which was more of a general product unveiling, and then there was the Brighton unveiling, which was like a car company that was doing some automated stuff. We went obviously to the product unveiling, and there we met, I have a bunch of little cards here. We met a few different blockchain or companies that were doing cryptocurrency stuff. One of them was this Acute Angle Cloud. They were building their own cryptocurrency. They didn't have a lot of information. They had their marketing people there. They had a little device. It looked like a little triangle. It's on one of the videos. Didn't get a lot of info with it, but they showed it, doing some mining. It looked like it was doing CPU mining. They said it was a custom algorithm. It's acuteangle.com. It's spelled out like the way you would think it is. www.acuteangle.com. Not a lot of info other than that. We were just going to do some research with it. I was trying to get them to give me a demo of it, but they said it wasn't full production yet. But I was like, hey, I can give you a card and you can send me one of these little things and see what it does. But that was one of the cryptocurrency pieces that were on the floor there. InWin and a couple other case companies had 6-card and 8-card configuration cases that are going to be coming out. I'm trying to get some of those for testing and stuff. But by and large, it was people just really focused on blockchain tech, of trying to tokenize different assets and put them on the blockchain. There was a company that was writing that I found pretty interesting that was tokenizing these inserts for shoes. So like people could have these like on construction sites, and it would create this like kind of an IoT based system that if you had a construction worker like fall down or get injured, it was just tracking their feet essentially. So if they fell over or they were injured, you know, they would be off their feet, so the pressure would come off and it would send the signal. It showed that if they were down or in a suppressed location, but it was writing all the events to a blockchain, which was pretty interesting because it was immutable. It had that proof, you know, of event, essentially as the event capture there, but it would then create the transactions were tokens, right? So it was all this commoditized piece there. So it was a lot of taking that tech and implementing it in a business industry. So again, that was kind of the unveil piece. We came out of that, little video on that, showed a lot of robotics and different things, but after that was the nVidia, nVidia's big keynote, and I was obviously super excited to go to that. We get there and find out that it was a closed private event, and you know, mind you, we're rocking this badge that's supposed to get us into everywhere, and when we go to the registration, they said no, you were sent an email and you had to pre-register and then get accepted. Because they figured that it would be, you know, there was only so much capacity in the nVidia keynote. It was like something like 2,600 person venue, and that's why there's like, you know, there's tens of thousands of media. This is why this was what we've later found out. We thought we were just like, oh, cryptocurrency, stay out. It wasn't that. It was literally like the fire marshals, like you can only have so many people, so if they didn't register, they're out, right? So, you know, if anybody saw any of those early videos and were like, oh, screw nVidia, it wasn't that. It was totally a fire issue. But we waited on the sidelines, and, you know, I tweeted out some stuff, hey, we're being denied entry. And then, you know, some other YouTubers like Barnacles and people are like tweeting out like, dude, let them in. You know, they're helping your GPU sales. They did let us in before it started, so we were able to kind of slide in the back, which was nice. Kind of last in, first out. I always kind of like being in the back. Of big events like that, because you can slide out real quick. But my main goal there was to see if Volta was going to be, anything with Volta in general was going to be talked about. And all the links that I'm talking about tonight are in the description. So the nVidia you know, keynote was in there, so you can watch it if you want to you know, go through their keynote. But bottom line, the real quick and dirty on it is nothing with Volta was really discussed. They briefly talked about the Titan V being, you know, from an AI deep learning, you know, chipset of being able to give you a lot of power, like more so than any other consumer has ever been able to have in their hands. But short of that, there was nothing on Volta at all. And anybody that's seen that video that we posted on day one got to see, like, I kind of waited it out. I saw a lot of people talking to the nVidia CEO, and I kind of just slid to the front and was able to sneak in a conversation with him. And we cut the video on right when, like, so I did a selfie with him. You know, that's why you see me do a selfie with him and then walk away on the video that I showed. So I kind of got to just interact with him for a second. But the video part that we did capture was me asking the CEO if there was any word or any kind of inclination of when Volta for like the newer gaming cards or crypto cards would be coming out. Nothing was mentioned in the keynote, but you know, there's a lot of people in the cryptocurrency world looking forward to it. And you know, the GPU supply is really being strained right now. And I mean, you know, I get it totally, totally avoided the question. And was just like, hey, did you see all that cool stuff I already announced? That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about tonight, and, you know, have a good night. So, you know, swing and a miss, but, you know, hopefully an A for effort to, one, get access to the CEO of nVidia, and then ask the question that was on all of our minds with Volta. And, you know, I just saved the rest of those questions that I wanted to ask, because, you know, I was kind of one and done with a situation like that. I mean, once you kind of get that swing and a miss, you don't go in for a second one. It's just a rude thing to do. So I kind of just let him do his thing. I turned and was like, you know, thanks for your time, and moved on. But again, good, cool thing. Got to see what they had coming. I am a little concerned with nVidia in general. I mean, just they posed three, not from like the Volta. I think the Volta is going to be amazing, but their focus you can see is totally waning over towards like car automation when it comes to autonomous cars. They put this graphic out there that said a lot of things, and coming from like a marketing previous background and finance piece, they put up a very key indicator slide up there. They showed the GPU industry in general, gaming, everything included, $100 billion, and then they showed the car automation, or they showed car automation, and then they showed just transportation in general, and it was like 10 trillion and like 100 trillion or something insane, right? So I think it was $100 trillion. It's on the nVidia keynote slide, but you could see where they were saying is like, hey, the money pot's here. GPUs are cool, but here's where we should be putting a lot of our innovation at. So that kind of concerned me just for the long term from a GPU side, because that's not, if they're focusing on automated cars and all that and just driverless cars stuff, they're going to put a lot of money into that, knowing that they have a huge lead on AMD when it comes to like high-end GPUs and stuff. So maybe they're going to let AMD try to catch up. Who knows? But that was NVIDIA's piece, and that was Media Day 1. Media Day 2 was very kind of uneventful. And so we're going to skip through Media Day 2 pretty quick, because most of Media Day 2 was a lot on just AI, was a lot on machine learning, was a lot on new product stuff. So you saw like the rolling Samsung screens and all that kind of stuff. That's where TechCrunch and all those folks started. All of the events of the day when I was looking through it was all like product unveil, getting access to the floor, all that kind of stuff. Stuff that I, as a techie, would love to go out there and see. I think it would be like, sweet, but it was like, I want to stay focused. I wanted to get you guys out of video. So I spent most of the morning just producing the video, going through content, and then getting a video out. And we spent probably, if that day was broken up, I would say 30% of it was trying to find a place where I could do some good editing. The 30% was trying to find somewhere to upload it that wasn't just dropping the connection right away. And then the rest of it was me making it and uploading it, finally finding a place to upload, which was, thanks to this badge again, was we had access to the platinum, kind of the platinum club area, which is where all of the CEOs and key like individuals that would have been at CES. There was these few little areas that were set up at a couple of the different hotels, which was like, they called it the platinum club. So like Neil Patrick Harris, all these people that were coming in were kind of coming through these different areas, right? So we're sitting there just cutting away on videos and stuff, and like all these like famous people and stuff are coming through it. So the cool thing is they had hard lines in there on the hotel's fiber, so they gave me a quick access to upload stuff. But we're just kind of like, don't mind us, bro. And I'm just sitting there trying to get a video uploaded as like CEOs of companies and stuff are coming in there. But it was kind of like a respect the space time in area, and I didn't want to push it since I wanted to use the network in there. So we just kind of minded to ourselves, but got to see some pretty cool people. From there, Media Day 2, the last part of the evening was the Intel keynote. And that was the last video I just did last night. I kind of showed you a real sped up version of it. Sorry for it being really bumpy. I mean, we were on a very interesting seat, and it was kind of hard to hold the gimbal for as long as that time lapse that I did was like 25-30 minute time lapse. So camera was weighing a little, holding that up there. But again, common theme. Intel keynote covered, Spectre and Meltdown in the beginning of as we were walking in, talking about how they're going to try to handle that, and over a period of time, what the impacts are going to be. The one piece I'll talk about Spectre and Meltdown is I want to try to do, when we come back from BTC Miami, the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami this week actually. When we come back, I want to test, because we have multiple different Intel chips. I want to see Monero mining with the patch and without the patch to see if Meltdown and Spectre have any impact on cryptocurrency mining. I don't think it does from just initial review of what that patch is going to do, but I would like to see some empirical evidence of that. If we have an 8600K, we have a 7700K, we have 47 or 4790Ks, 4770s. I have enough of the spread of chips here that I'm going to patch that and then see what it does pre and post on Spectre Meltdown patches. So anybody that's doing any cryptocurrency mining on their chips will be able to answer that. But other than that, the Intel keynote was pretty cool. They flew a large drone helicopter, based helicopter in the convention center, which was pretty cool. It was behind kind of like this protective screen thing, but if that thing would have tilted sideways, that thing would have been all over, so it would have been interesting. That was pretty cool. I put that on the Twitter. I think I made a couple of videos of that, and then they did 100 drone flight in the convention center that was without GPS, and it was one of those things like I took a video of it, but unless you were there, it was friggin' amazing. But other than that, not a lot, nothing with cryptocurrency, but the blockchain again came up, blockchain technology came up, and Intel's pursuit on, I think, trying to become Skynet is continuing. Their big focus on big data, big mining of data, and just automation in general is like on another degree compared to a lot of other companies. So it's kind of like a Skynet type of thing to me. But it was overall a good presentation. I got to give it to Intel's. Are we losing that screen? The thing went dark there. Intel's presentation is the fact that after something as powerful as Spectre and Meltdown, the big issue, I'm really surprised that the Intel CEO kept his keynote, and he was pretty calm and collective about it. It was like, hey, we're going to work through it. It's not good, and we're going to do what we can to iterate and eventually get it fixed, from a hardware side, and through normal attrition processes, it'll happen. So new processors will be out there, but he still had the keynote, which was pretty impressive. So that was Media Day 2, and then we went into CES Day 1. CES Day 1 and the part of Day 2 was all the digital forum cryptocurrency track. So we were not we did not go down to the floor in any capacity. So to give you guys kind of a layout, you have the Las Vegas Convention Center, friggin' huge. Whole thing packed north, south, and center halls. So it has a north, a south, and a center hall set up in the Las Vegas Convention Center, all spread out. Everything's in there. A lot of different vendors and stuff. But then you had like 8 to 10 hotels that had pretty much their ballrooms and all their meeting rooms all filled up with other stuff. So we were in the Venetian, which is where this digital money track was. It was on the 3rd floor of the meeting halls. So there's 3 floors of meetings. And then on floor 2 had like AMD, MSI, Seagate, a couple, Thermal Take was in the same place. So we try to maximize where we were at. So we covered the digital money track. The first part was Sophia, which anybody that watches TV knows who Sophia, the AI robot is, and that the first link in the description below has Sophia in the ICO. It has the Facebook link to that entire video from Cradle to Grave. So if you watch that video, you'll see what we were watching there, which was the launch of the AGI token, which was an ICO token sale for AI. Now this is considered a utility token, which means you're going to be able to spend it, at least the way they're setting it up, is you're going to be able to spend it for AI resources. It's supposed to be a counterparty exchange system for if you want to buy compute power from an AI, you can do it through this AGI token. I believe it sold out like immediately. They launched a token sell and it immediately sold out. So eventually it'll be on exchanges. It may be already on exchanges. I'll check your guys' feed here in a little bit. But so that whole piece is about an hour and a half long. It's very interesting. It's got Hanson Robotics talking about Sophia and what they're trying to do with AI in general. They're trying to go more general intelligence AI, which is, and they call it Singularity Net. It's all like scary. I mean, so it's the stuff that I think Elon gets all freaked out about, right? Because some of the stuff that they're talking about is like where you can get robotics thinking and feeling and wanting to do well for you and having an intelligence explosion. A lot of the AI talk in general was kind of very, some of it was super concerning and some of it was okay. The super concerning stuff is the people that really want to go full on general intelligence. And what that means is essentially it can access the databases that will give it a general intelligence. So it's open internet, it can figure out things, it can give you different solutions to whatever you ask it, that kind of stuff. Sophia right now is not turned on to do that. She's bucketized essentially, and then they give her limited access to certain online components to learn from. But it was a very interesting insight on AI tech in general, where you have something called narrow focused AI, which is what most AIs are, to where they're going to be like a conversation bot, or they're going to be a something doing computational stuff for you, or something that's going to try to figure out how to land a rocket. It's something like what SpaceX uses for Falcon 9. But the conversational and the chatbot AIs are very interesting. All of the way the AGI token, as they were saying, would work is that Sophia would directly interact with the blockchain, writing all those different transactions for the counterparty purchases for the AI time, essentially. So you're purchasing AI time using the token. So very interesting video there. That's the Sophia one. After the Sophia discussion, there was a regulatory landscape. It was with the governor, I think it was the governor of Nevada. Don't hold me to that, but there was a governor in there talking. And it really was the regulatory standpoint of just cryptocurrencies in general and some of the efforts that they're trying to do. The bottom line overview I got from most of the regulatory discussions at CES was there's still not, there's a lot of activity, but yet nothing that seemed to, or it was going to stop or stifle cryptocurrencies, which was a relief, but also kind of like, well, what is really going to go on? The whole tone of the entire event seemed very anti-bank, which was very interesting to me. And what I mean by that is, like, almost every innovation was attacking the core structures of what the banking in general. And I was very surprised to see that in such a very open and public forum by very big entities like IBM and some of the other larger companies were just just going after the bank's lunch money. I mean, it was just saying, there's no point, it's, governments, as long as they can stay out of it, you need to have this frictionless transaction. We're building the platforms and augmenting with existing cryptocurrencies to build a very frictionless system to where, one of the discussions, it's actually the next discussion in the blockchain discussion that I had in there, was really that whole concept of seeing the ecosystems of the cryptocurrencies start to meet some of those frictionless transactions and tokenizations that's going to happen here in 2018, where you're going to have your airline miles, you're going to have your gift cards, your GameStop gift cards, all these items all start to get tokenization, and then you're going to have these exchanges set up in place to already set up the counterparties. So if you go to a 7-Eleven, or you go to a any kind of store, whatever you have available on you to sell or to transact, it doesn't matter. They're blanking the slate on the way you exchange, right? Like the whole concept, and this is the kind of mind-blowing thing that I witnessed there, was the payment processors that were there, the backing big corporate companies, of just eating the bank's lunch in front of everybody. I mean, there was investors and bankers there, and they're just like, you know what, we're coming after everything, and we're going to do it with technology, and we can already, with or without permission, cryptocurrency's already done it. So now we're going to get a part of this action, to where we're going to get a part of the industry, to where it's a microtransaction level, to where right now, like, if you get paid from your employer and it goes to a bank, and then that bank goes to you transfer that to a payment processor because you're buying something, and there's 4% and there's 2.5% because you're using eBay or something. There's all these fees that are in the middle. And what the payment processors and these companies are saying is we're going to get it to where it doesn't matter where your company puts it, because it's going to be straight to you. It's going to lean out that process between you getting some value because of work or because you're mining cryptocurrency to right to the consumer. And that payment processor is the only hop now. It's not 4 hops. It's not your bank and then somebody else. It's got to track your KYC. It's straight and to the point. And then you can take the regulatory framework and you bring it up a level to where you're not in the middle. It's not about, you're collecting data, from 4 different points. You're looking at it at a microtransaction level now, and the taxes and all that stuff will be taken off of each microtransaction, handled at a business layer, not at a consumer layer. And that kind of changes everything. And they're seeing that as the traditional structures that are in place right now just don't work well with the blockchain tokenization of things. So from cryptocurrency to the exchange of goods, if you're want to use your GameStop points to buy your Walmart stuff, right? You just swipe it. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because their exchanges will auto create it to a token over to an exchange, and all in real time make that transaction for you. So a $25 GameStop card just bought you $25 worth of Walmart stuff, right? That kind of stuff. So in the description, if you look at frictionless transactions of automated transactions, it's that one that I have the timestamps 25 minutes through 42 minutes in the description. That there has the stuff that I'm talking about. If you watch that, the person that was a huge payment processor, 25,000 different major accounts, this is the stuff they're looking at switching over, right? And they're telling you that they're in demo right now. They're testing it. So it's not pushing cryptocurrencies away, it's augmenting them. So everything that we're mining and stuff doing is creating that massive ecosystem. Again, another big, I'd call it win in the cryptocurrency space. So if you're mining, folks, this stuff ain't going away. There was not anybody out there saying anything negative about cryptocurrency going away at all. There's probably some people that weren't liking it from the fact that there's no damn GPUs out there, but if anything, it was like, how do we take this technology and augment it? Because essentially the cryptocurrencies have been the working use case. Nobody can dispute if you sit here and mine Monero, or you mine Ubik, or you mine any of these cryptocurrencies, and that you can transfer it to somebody else, and then they can transfer to an account, and then they can get fiat, and then they buy fiat with it and get it back and then transact it somewhere else. It's the working use case to show that it functions, and it functions fast. Short if you have like CryptoKitties killing Ethereum, or like the last few days, I think somebody was blowing up some gas prices and nuking the network. But again, all these things are iterative things that they look and find and have to fix, right? So these large companies looking at different ways to innovate on top of the platforms that are there is a good sign. It's a good sign for 2018, especially in cryptocurrency. If you've been on the fence about getting into it or trying to earn some of it, if you're making an investment, that's a personal decision. But if you have already some equipment and you're just looking what to mine, it really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is I don't think it's going to matter that much of gaining value. Now, there's different concepts of which one's going to go up more than another, for sure, but that's like, where's the magic 8 ball? I want to find if there's a producer that has a magic 8 ball, I thought about this, and this is a free idea for anybody out there if you want to make millions of dollars on it. But I thought about getting a magic 8 ball that had a little BBT logo on the back of it, and you would shake it of saying, what do I mine today? What do I mine today? Oh, I'm mining Ubik, right? I think it would be funny personally, and have like a cubicle ball or something in there. I think it would be pretty funny, but that's kind of like what I'm looking at right now with the way cryptocurrency is like, what do I mine? At the end of the day, will it matter? Because it comes down to like, all of them are really lifting, and as more and more people start to purchase, I think that they'll all of the coins in general just have nowhere to go but up. But by and large, a lot of the mineable coins, some of the ICOs, but they have, it just seems from that vantage point that they're just going to increase because you're just going to have more participation. It's just a simple math problem of what's the supply, where can you get it, and are you mining it or not is kind of irrelevant. It's just people are going to purchase it. So you got that, and then you got, and I'll close you on through the rest of the day one, which was the financial track, the cryptocurrency in 2018 innovation, both from ICOs that are going to be coming out and looking at augmenting existing exchanges. So the Bitrex CEO, Vinny Lingham, a head of IBM's Hyperledger. A couple other people were on that forum, on that digital forum. All the links are below again. And in their discussions, some new things were learned. So like the Bitrex CEO came out and was like, we started with 4 employees in January of last year. And as of right then, when he was talking last week, he said, we're up at 40 employees and 40 contractors. So they got 80 freaking people running like billions, potentially $1 trillion plus a year transactional company. Like, mind-blowing. 80 people, right? That shows you the leaned out version of what cryptocurrency can do if you can run that kind of money through something and that many accounts. So pretty much he said that they had to lock accounts, to lock the new subscribed accounts coming into the the exchange, because they were growing at a rate to where they had signed up literally like 100,000 people in 8 hours. And he says when they hit that peak, they shut it down. They said, we got to slow down. We got to bring up the tech in our facilities at a much more rapid rate before we can open up signups. So you got people wondering why cryptocurrency, and this was from this meeting, because people were asking, hey, what do you think the cryptocurrency prices are going to be at? And his counter to that in the meeting was, a lot of exchanges like his, his Binance, a couple of the other ones were locking people coming into the system, right? So you have the main exchanges are not letting new people in. Now these are new people. If he signed up 100,000 people in 8 hours, even if they were doing $1, even if they were doing $50 of exchange, that's a lot of more liquidity that's coming in. Counterparties that are wanting to buy your sell orders, right? If you're trying to sell. So if you look at that, some of the major exchanges are locked out. You can't get into them right now. So, people are looking at the prices in general. When you have that kind of just halt, when those signups are turned back on, you have this potential where there's going to be additional growth and additional purchasing. And when you have the funnel turned off, prices seem to stagnate. So once those things get turned on here, hopefully back in first quarter, you should see an interesting effects on price, because now you're going to have more people trying to get into it. And as more and more media, more and more people find channels like this and other folks' channels, and they get educated on what cryptocurrency is the industry starting to back it? What is it? That kind of stuff, you have a lot more confidence in it. So that plus other innovational stuff like the VR marketplaces. They were demoing VR marketplaces to where you'd put your VR headset on HTC Vive. You would log into, let's say Paris downtown. You're zipping around Paris downtown. You're going into a store, and you're able to pick up these things virtually and see in almost photorealistic ways merchandise. And then in there you can click it, and they showed this little demo where it popped up and it had like Doge and Dash and PayPal and all this, and you could just click it and you could purchase, right? So instantaneous purchasing, seeing things in 3D, these marketplaces, and trying to go to different stores. And it was like this epiphany, because they were talking about this digital marketplace, and I forgot which individual, but it's in that link that says cryptocurrency in 2008 innovations in the link below. But in that piece there, the individual was talking about it, was not seeing people kind of catch it, and he's like, no, let me reiterate this. Imagine downtown, wherever, major stores easily, with the right tool sets, just like a Shopify website, being able to quickly commoditize all of their products and inventory digitally in 3D. So somebody could bring up a Google map, click on a city that's not near you, click on it, zoom in, go to the ground level, go into that store, see a product and they have inventory of, picking up that product, let's say graphics cards, and saying purchase. It's a completely different visual way. And the reason why they said it's not just a gimmick is because of the concept of the visualization of it. Because right now, if you were to go on a website, would you know that X store on you know, in some town in the middle of USA or something, if you're in the middle of the USA, would you know that some store in some town, you know, 200 miles from you, if they're on this virtual marketplace, how do you know to get to their website? But if you went through like a Google Maps from a top view and drug over and said, hey, I wonder what's in this town. Oh, there's 4 stores that are digital in this town. You click on that store and now you're zoomed down and now you're walking through that store visually and you're seeing their inventories. It's a whole different way to interact with it, a very rapid way to interact with it. More so than a linear flat website where you're just scrolling down, where the information is not being presented to you in a way that allows you to create a market counterparty transaction with somebody. That visualization of walking into a store, ironically, digitally turning to brick and mortar in a way through a VR experience, will change everything if you can digitally purchase that way. So that means you could go check every Best Buy really quick, right? And just visually jump in with your Vive. That kind of technology was like, I'm sitting there looking around at people going, if all that stuff is put onto a blockchain and I can go search the inventories in 50 stores, I'm going to be stuck on my Vive just looking for stuff, right? So it's a very interesting way to augment blockchain technology, cryptocurrency for purchasing, and rapidly purchase things in a new digital way. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. That was super exciting to see the innovation and see that it wasn't just some pipe dream. It was a company physically putting resources into building that. So that was essentially day one, was a lot of those tracks. I have all of them in the description below so you guys can see that. Day two involved a lot of the periscope kind of visualization stuff. I was on the move a lot, so I didn't get to, I have a lot of B-roll footage on the camera. Can you check that? That thing keeps going to sleep. I want to make sure it doesn't shut off the stream. I call it the adventures on the floor. So essentially I had a secondary phone and I was trying to bring up a periscope image for everybody. It was very grainy, so I'm sorry for that. It was really just kind of the stream quality in general. But essentially I did the North Hall, the South Hall, walked through the Seagate booth, and went through the Wynn, which I'll explain in a second. The Wynn Hotel, which was a pretty amazing experience. But Seagate, real quick, 30-second on them. Seagate, wonder why Seagate? Well, Seagate had an awesome booth in the Venetian. Walked into there, right when I walked in, was greeted. The folks that were in there saw that my badge, which had this BBT logo on it, it was like, hey, Bitcoin cryptocurrency? I'm like, yeah, and I gave them a card, and they're like, oh man, we're totally miners, and we're mining this, and we're doing bursts and all this. It was just amazing, like this whole conglomerate of like the booth folks, that were really engaged. I have that on Periscope, so you guys get to see some of that conversation with what they're mining and some of the excitement that they were showing around the space. They seem very happy with that. Some cool tech in there. I did get some zoom ins on some of their newer SSDs. They had a 15.28 terabyte SSD, normal 2.5 size, 15 terabytes. Let's think about that. That's friggin' amazing. I think it's like 12 G's, so we're not going to be picking that up anytime soon. But pretty cool tech in there. North Hall had a lot of robots. South Hall had a lot of robots in it, which was some crazy stuff, some of the tech that was in there. But not a lot of cryptocurrency stuff. Gigabyte, a few other companies were inside that hall, but did not have their consumer tech in it. It was all like server tech and stuff. So we kind of blazed through that South Hall. Went to go to the North Hall, and that was the day that the power went out. So anybody that was following CES, like half the convention center and like half of Vegas power went out. So we had to kind of skip that. I shot out to the Wynn. Actually, we shot out to Caesar's Palace first because Caesar's had it was Gigabyte was at Caesar's, and in there, I'll show you guys. Now I don't think the audio, which is fine, but if we can go to this, not that. So here is the video of unedited of content from in there, and I'll zoom through kind of this. This is kind of the setup of what they would have in their booths, where they would have all their boards kind of laid out. Let me kind of zoom over A lot of stuff you guys already see if you went to Micro Center. But right over here, they had this one board that didn't even have a card to it, and it was the mining board, and it didn't, like, if we come over here, you guys can see this. So at 11:51, what's up? Oh, nope, not that one. There you go. So 11:51 style, but you can see it looks like it's the B250 equivalent 12. I think it's a 12 slot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, 12 slot board. Let me play it a little further so you guys can see some of the setup. DDR4 has the support pieces there, you know, for the 4-pin power. Now, I was asking them when this would be available because I wanted to get one for just a quality check, quote unquote, and, you know, see how their BIOS works, all that, you know, what's the stability of the board, all those kind of things. So they were saying that at the end of first quarter this would be available, and it should be hitting no earlier than mid-February. They said they may show up on Newegg, but you can kind of see the basic setup here. Now, obviously, our episode will have this, you know, same kind of video, but just to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the content, this is essentially what we were looking at. So, real quick piece there. And we'll come back over. So, that was essentially the 12-slot board from Gigabyte. That was about the only mine tech short of the InWin, and I think there was a couple of cases that had different 6 GPU cases. There was a ton of people around it. I figured I'll just order it and we'll do a proper video on it versus getting it out there. But that was a very interesting time in Gigabyte because they were pretty much like yeah, the mining board's over there, man. You know, and we couldn't get anybody to really talk to us. There was they had a lot of GPUs there, but, you know, nobody really would discuss anything with cryptocurrency. We had the same experience with AMD on the floor. AMD just outright, like, we went into their booth and they didn't have anybody that wanted to talk crypto, and they're like, oh, it hasn't died yet. You know, it was like completely out of touch, which really surprised me and kind of disappointed me from AMD. You know, they're like, oh yeah, there ain't nobody here that talks crypto. And then they, you know, the guy like turned around. It was like, I don't want to call it rude, but it was just like, I expected more, and that's just, it, you know, I don't know. It was just not a good experience. Let's just say that. You know, and they could have been like had a rough day, but it was day one. So I mean, it was like, it wasn't like we were there the last day and they were just tired and wanting to go home. It was like, hey, this is the first day within like the first 7 hours of the booth, right? So not a lot of good experience with AMD, unfortunately. MSI, completely different story. Where's that little thing that MSI gave us? So MSI gave us this little like kind of like gift pack, and they were totally into cryptocurrency. One of their main booth guys, one of their chief marketing people, came over and was like, "Oh, you guys are into mining? Oh man, I have my own mining setup too." And it was just like, wanted to talk crypto, was very excited about the space. You know, it was like, "Hey, where do you think it's going?" And you know, I really like, you know, Ethereum, and you know, he had heard of Ubik. He had, you know, been doing some Monero. I mean, obviously they have some pretty nice RX Vega cards. But, you know, they gave us these, like, little, like, gift hangout, you know, handout things, and let me do a close. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, a little twin Frozer memory stick Had a little MSI logo. I mean, it was just cool. I mean, it's like, whatever, dude. But, I mean, it's like, I don't know. You know, from a GPU mining thing, I was trying to look. I'm like, where can I get more of these? These things would be awesome to, you know. I know some people would probably want to pick these up. But, you know, it was just like little gift pack, you know. And then they had these, like, little dragon things that they could put on your monitor.
When you flip to the little camera, you have no audio.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, so, I mean, it was just, all I was saying on the little camera was this, it's just a little USB stick. And it's...
They said, will it mine?
This thing will mine. Yeah, I don't know. This will be, you know, this is actually, and it's like, not like they went cheap either, because this little thing right here, I was really surprised when I plugged it in. It's 64 gigs, so it wasn't like they got cheap on us and did like 8 gig ones. So, you know, good on MSI for doing it up. And, you know, these little, I don't know, like little monitor dragon looking things. So, pretty cool, you know, on MSI, very knowledgeable people talking about mining. I did ask about Volta or anything, since they were really kind of forthcoming on everything that they were talking about. They had no, actually they were like, we don't even know when we're actually going to get our Volta GPUs, but they did say that they were heavy on production right now on GPUs in general, and that supplies should start to come back in here in the first quarter. So, hopefully the GPU outages of everywhere right now and the exploitation of our finances, because everybody's charging like 10 times what a GPU should be, will go away. But no, MSI really cool. Thermaltake also really cool. We had some video from Thermaltake. It was in the last night's video, and they, you know, with their power supplies and stuff, you know, they have essentially the red, green, blue series, normal power supplies. These little guys, Grand Powers, which right now the only difference on this year's model here is they say an I. It's like I RGB. And talking to their people, they said the gauging on the new ones is a little more thicker, because they've had some cryptocurrency issues where they said that the loads on the Thermaltake wires, they've had some that would burn out, and they upped the gauge on the new ones. So I want to see when these come out, the iRGBs come out, I'm going to take a look between their current spec and the new spec and see if that's a true statement. But, you know, again, a company that's acknowledging cryptocurrency, acknowledging that people are buying up their power supplies, and acknowledging trying to do a product fix. That's the kind of information that I wanted to see out there from CES. Is, you know, see if there was any changes from the cryptocurrency side, or the people buying those products. So that was a good talk. I kind of going through here. Yeah, the person that I was talking to, product market manager for North America. So that person was the person that was into cryptocurrency mining. So you got a friend in the business, folks. Thermaltake, again, another marketing specialist, was very new about the space, which was pretty interesting. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody from our first, we did talk to Bosch, and had an interesting conversation with one of their media and public relations managers with the IOTA and IoT in general. So they did confirm that they did take a nice position into IOTA, and they really like the technology that what they've seen so far with IOTA. So anybody that's been thinking about IOTA, straight from, you know, the media and public relations manager of North America, saw our cryptocurrency badge and came up and was like, hey, we've gotten into some cryptocurrency. I didn't have to engage the conversation, and then started talking about IOTA. So very interesting floor piece there. And then last but not least, on that day, we went over and talked to Kodak. So now Kodak, I want to make sure I explain, and then I'll end it on the win. We'll talk through the win of the Asus tech piece, and then we'll get into question and answer, and then we'll wrap this episode up. And if you guys have done any super chats or anything like that, I'm going to get to those towards the end here and address those. The Kodak, I want to make sure that we understand. So on the South Hall periscope, when we were walking through to the Kodak booth, I caught on the periscope the CEO of the cash miner, the Kodak cash miner. We're walking through there with the thing, and he's like picking up the Kodak cash miner and then kind of scurrying to the back and putting it in the back. And that was a little strange. And then they were like, well, we got to make sure the announcement's out. New York's got to get it first, before we can talk to any other media. But it was just like I was chasing him with the periscope, just like, hey, I want to talk to you about that Kodak miner that you're running away with, So it was pretty funny because it's all captured on that periscope that's on Twitter. And then when they came out, I did have a discussion with them, and they're like, New York's got to say it first, and then we'll talk about it. But I did find the Kodak coin chief marketing officer, and he was Bruce. It was one of the videos Bruce Elliott. It's one of the videos that I just did a few days ago. And he made very clear that there are two things going on with Kodak. You have a digital platform and blockchain with a ICO'd cryptocurrency, which is the Kodak coin. Different companies supporting Kodak, ICO, platform, it's its own thing. Then you have the cash miner, different company supporting with Kodak, its own thing, and the Kodak cash miner is a Bitcoin miner. It's essentially a retagged S9. So they have nothing to do with each other. They both announced the same day, and I wonder why there's confusion. Because you think that the mining unit was to mine the Kodak coin, which would make sense. But it's not that. It was, and I don't know if they weren't the two companies were in different areas of the booth, and they really weren't talking to each other. So it was I don't think it was any kind of weird collusion or that they announced at the same time. It could have been one of those deals where Kodak just inked both deals and they both simultaneously announced, and ensued a confusing situation. So Bruce was very clear on the Kodak platform being like a Kodak cloud, that if people take pictures and upload it to the cloud, metadata is stored within the picture and then printed onto the blockchain, thereby curating that image to the photographer or people uploading it. Thereby, that company that created the Kodak coin would web crawl the internet, find uses of that picture, and then submit not takedown requests, but just saying, hey, cool, you like that picture, that's great. Somebody else owns that, and you can pay for rights usage, digital rights usage on that, and you could pay with PayPal or whatever, and that person would get credited Kodak coins that then they could exchange those from. So essentially, it was a utility token for a digital media platform made by a company that was just digitizing essentially the photography's metadata into the blockchain. The picture itself is stored not on chain. Big difference. And I asked that question in that interview. I asked him, are you storing the imagery in the blockchain? And if they were doing that, they would have to probably choose something like an IPFS, interplanetary file system, to store that, because it's a lot of chain data to do that. So he was very clear in saying that only the chain metadata would be in there, and then the actual imagery would be stored on their digital cloud services. So it'd be still centralized when it came to the storage of the imagery. The Kodak Cache player, or the Kodak Cache mining thing, is first off, those guys wouldn't even really talk to us, guys. I came through there for 5 times in about 2 hours. I kept coming through to see if they'd bring it back out. I wanted to talk to their CEO. He gave me his card. I'm still going to try to reach out to him, see if they will, let us review it, make sure that, is it an S9, is it not? But bottom line, from just reading the specs on it, it sounds like a horrible deal. They essentially, you pay $3,400 for this S9, and they take half of it. What? So, a lot of people were saying, oh, that's a scam and all this other stuff. I mean,
technically it's just you're screwing yourself. I mean, it's not really a scam if you're getting paid half the coins. You're still getting paid, so it's not a scam, but it's definitely not the best deal in the world. It's probably like a horrible deal. So I don't understand that's the questions I would ask, if we do get an interview with the CEO. I'm going to be like, why wouldn't anybody else get an S9 themselves and just do this themselves? Like, where is the advantage? What value add are you doing? And they're probably not going to be able to answer that. So just to make sure that everybody was clear on both sides of the ticket, that's what that means. So hopefully that helps and interesting. The last piece I'll kind of go through is the visit on the last day where I had to run over to the Win. There are some pretty funny videos with it. I think they're funny. They're both periscope, and I do have actual B-roll footage inside the suite. But I get to the Win, which is a particular hotel. It's all the way in the back of the Win, so the first part of the periscope for about 8 minutes is me wandering in the Win, trying to look for where this Asus Tech's hall's at. I get to essentially some closed rooms with some people standing outside, and they said, hey, this is a private event, or it's a private thing. It's up in a suite. It's kind of invite only, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. So I haven't been stopped anywhere yet, so there's a way that I can get in there. I cover this kind of content, and essentially the guy that was kind of behind the door that was letting people in kind of looked at the badge and was like, a cryptocurrency key online influence. Yeah, sure, man, you can come on in. We kind of, I'm looking at the video and I'm like, we're in, boys. We kind of, I want to call it infiltrated, but I wasn't on a list to get in, and they still let us in. So, we slide in, they take us up to the up the elevator to these suites, and as the live stream cuts off, essentially we're in a very, very interior, we're already in an interior room, and then we go into another interior room inside the hotel, and then the live stream cuts off, mainly because there's no signal. We go in the elevator, go up, and then I start rolling B-roll on the other camera. So I have video of walking down the hall, getting into the suite, which is pretty sweet. And in there, it's around some windows, so I was able to fire the live stream up for a little bit. It's super grainy. It's still on Twitter. We have the links below. But you see me meet Paul's Hardware. Paul, essentially, he's in there filming and just wrapping up, and I was able to catch him in there and say hey to him. We catch that all on the live stream. I was able to also meet Jay's 2 Cents. He was in the MSI booth, so we saw him in there, and that was actually in yesterday's video. Yeah, it was a pretty good time, and we got to see a lot of the bigger tech YouTubers out there just in the wild. It was just luck, it wasn't like we tried to meet or anything and just caught them on the fly. I saw some Linus Tech Tip people. I think it was Meg, maybe that's her name, and Jake, which do a lot of the support video stuff for them. I got to sit there and hang out with them for a little bit, talk to them, so it was pretty cool. But get into the Win, get to do some exploring. Again, Asus Tech, bang up on cryptocurrency. They knew their stuff. They did not have the B250 there. There was not an engineer there to talk what the limitations were. They did have a chief marketing person there that I was able to talk to. He took a lot of the questions. He's got my card. I gave him my phone number and said, this is what I'm trying to find out. I have not been able to crack this, proverbial nut on what is up with the B250 on the 19 cards limitation, where it comes to where we're stuck at 13 and we have to use P106s. I can't use AMD mining cards to fill in for those P106s. So I have his card. He said he was going to run it down and find me an engineer that could answer the question. So the second we get that, we will inform you guys on how to do that. But I am trying to go through their ranks right now to figure out what is the deal on that B250 19 slot motherboard. So again, trying to run it down for the community in general, and hopefully that would be good for everybody. So that's essentially it, guys. We ran the floor. A lot of the stuff was captured. I highly encourage you guys to watch those digital money forums. I'm going to bring up and do some Q&A real quick, answer any of the other super chat questions if there was any, and then call this one a night. Hopefully it was been pretty informative. A good update on the industry for the technology. Let's see here.
There was a super chat from Aaron up in Canada.
All right. live streams. Well, looks like another video I get to dispute with. Answer yes or no. Let's see here. So, answer yes or no. 2018 will be a growth year for GPU-based mining activity. I would say yes, it's going to be a huge growth period. GPU mining in general, there was nothing at all that was a negative indicator that I saw at CES that was going to counter that. Nothing. If anything, an augmentation. You have exchanges that are going to be opening their doors again. Bitrex, Binance, all these are upgrading all their assets. Kraken went down to update. They're back online. You have all of these major exchanges. You're also going to have a huge amount of new exchanges enter the market. There were a lot of different people talking about bigger exchanges. Another counter to Coinbase having a competitor from a financial liquidity standpoint. I think one of them was called Uplift. I think was one of the companies that was handing out their cards that they wanted to take on Coinbase. They're going to launch with, at least the person that was talking about, I think it was Upstart or Upload. I'll look for their content, but they were saying that when they launch, they're going to be launched with SegWit transactions, and they're going to go after Coinbase. So I think Coinbase needs a good competitor. It'll force it to do things that it should have done for a long time. So when you have that much more liquidity come into the market, that is people purchasing the cryptocurrency that we're mining, right? So I think it's going to be another gangbuster year. I think any of the Fed coming down and changing things, I think there's going to be some probably regulation when it comes to taxes. Try to ensure that people are paying taxes, especially quarterly if you're really making huge increases. Anybody that's in 2017 that is still trying to figure out their cryptocurrency, do some research on something called Safe Harbor. That's an IRS mechanism that allows you to, it might not fully meet what you're wanting to do, but take a note of it and then just do some research. It's called Safe Harbor. It's a way that if you have a lot of expenses and you've had some revenues and you're trying to figure out where things are at, you can leverage this function that's in the IRS to protect you. It's essentially you're paying 10% more on your liable tax, and this, for 2017 to cover you on any kind of gaps that would have occurred in 2017 to save you any penalties. It doesn't mean you get out of your taxes. It just means that you get out of the fact that you will be fined heavily if you messed up something. So Safe Harbor is one that, and I learned that out there. So there were people talking about that. So you have a lot of exchanges out there that are going to be competing for your business, which is going to offer people opportunities to start buying the crypto, right? So I think it's going to be a good year for that.
What was your favorite thing at CES?
What was my favorite thing at CES? I would say the industry acknowledgement on cryptocurrency was super refreshing. I was scared that I wasn't going to hear much about cryptocurrency, and all I was going to hear is about blockchain. And only blockchain dismissing cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all that. I heard Bitcoin, I heard Litecoin, I heard Monero, I heard... surprisingly, I didn't hear that much about Ripple. I thought it was all going to be about Ripple. I mean, Ripple did get a clapping ovation, which on one of the bank production things, but there were some banks talking about some innovation, and they said, "Hey, how about Ripple or something?" But that was a really refreshing. And then I would say probably the most coolest thing out there was probably that VR marketplace, because it was just something that came from left field, and my mind never got around the concept of an interaction and purchasing that seems so simple when you can surf the web and try to find things to buy. And you usually gravitate to Amazon, you usually gravitate to Newegg, you usually gravitate to those one places that you know. But the idea that somebody could set up a marketplace around the world and you could just sit there on Google Maps and pluck and go to those places and just do the counterparty buying right there, that's mind-blowing to me.
Super chat from George.
Super chat from George. 11580s, 8P106s, how to overclock a colorful manly turbo engine is sketchy. Afterburners no go. Yeah, so right now the manly turbo engine is about the only thing that's out there that I know that effectively works, but yes, it is sketchy, and if it reboots, it sucks because you have to redo it again. But George Key, I'm looking at getting some P107s and P104s. I'm literally awaiting confirmation if we can get those by the time we get back from BTC Miami, and we'll tackle that question. Because I'm going to be running into that question too, and I'll be running onto it with a couple different platforms. So I'm going to put a pin in that one and just tell you turbo engine is probably about the only thing right now that's out there that I know of, and we'll update you there. VR shopping means never leaving home. I think that was kind of their point. I think it was just like augmenting Amazon's kind of effectiveness, but now with multiple vendors, evening the domain out if they can ship fast. $333 people on. That's pretty good turnout tonight.
For someone new starting out, do you suggest nVidia or AMD?
At this point, I would suggest any graphics card you can pick into, because right now AMD is always going to give you a little more trouble than nVidia. nVidia is going to be easier for the new people that don't have a lot of experience in mining. It's a plug and play. It's easy to update. I saw one more question before that super chat, and I'll answer that super chat. Bits are tripping. What to mine now as ETH difficulty has jumped huge. I mean, it's no brainer. I mean, if ETH having $1,400 is going to be the most profitable right now. It really comes down to your type of equipment. I mean, you can look at Crypto Night coins and hedge some of those other equal hash and or Dagger Hashimo coins like Ubik or right now we're mining Ubik by and large and ETC. I think ETC has a good future too. So I mean, that's just what we're mining to give you an idea. P107s, wow. Yeah, P107s are 1050 Ti's, if anybody doesn't know what that is. Do the motherboard manufacturers not know that we're using powered risers? They could use these boards a lot cheaper. And the Molex. You know, I did ask, that's a great question, Aaron. Thanks for that super chat, buddy. Yes, they do. And I did ask that question when I was up in Asus. I said, you know, you guys have 3 4x Molex or 4-pin Molex connect or 3 Molex connectors, and then you have a SATA connector, and we do not use. I was trying to provide them feedback to say we do not use that because we're using powered risers, and essentially what was told back to me from his understanding on the architecture was there are still situations where they are finding people are using non-powered risers, and from a safety standpoint they still include it. So I mean, it was a marketing person telling me this, so I wasn't getting it from a direct engineer, but I think that obviously the observe and reporting from everybody is that powered risers without plugging in the 4-pin Molexes is still okay. Right, as long you don't need to plug those in, but they're going to still include those as long as the attrition rate and the lack of production happens on non-powered risers. Because believe it or not, people still buy the ribbon cables. Any news about BTCE? I did not see anything or hear anything about BTCE. Is that up and down? I haven't seen. I haven't used BTCE since 2013, so I haven't followed it much.
What's the max you would recommend putting on one rail? How many times can you split it safely?
The max I've put on one single rail is 3 GPUs, and they were lower power GPUs. They were 1060s, and 1060s running at a 65 watt power. So if you're talking about when we talk about rails, we're talking about like let's say you had a Thermaltake, tough power 850, and it has 2 8-pins on there. If you take the 2 850s and you take one of those 850s, or one of those 8-pins rather, and you split it into 2 more 8-pins, now you have 3 GPUs that can be powered by that. You could do that if you're using something like it's a low-powered 1060 that you're going to be running at 65 power limit, because it's not going to draw that much. You're talking 60 watts on those 3 cards. You're pulling, roughly 180 watts on that one rail, which that one rail is good for up to 225 watts. So 3 is the most if you're going to use a low-power situation. If you're going to be doing 580s or something like that, don't do it. Don't split the rail. You can use the converter from the 6 to an 8 pin. Now I've done that before and it's worked fine, where we take like an EVGA Supernova and take a 6 pin, or it has an 8 6-pin split on the rail, and you take that second 6 pin, you split it to an 8, a single 8, and you go 2 8 pins into 2 like 580s. You're still fine there. It's just the only thing you have to be concerned about is if you're running dual mining on there, that if it's a lesser quality power supply, you are going to be overloading that single rail.
When you're mining, do you look for altcoins that have the high profitability right now, or do you look for things with a high reward with a future of high profitability?
So for the folks that couldn't hear that, the question was, do I look now for high profitability on coins or ones that have a future potential for high profitability?
Where you can get a lot of coins now that will hopefully be worth a whole lot later.
I've always, when I focus on mining, I look at the platform, the team, and who's behind the coin, and I look at it and I hedge on the fact that there's going to be a lot of them is a good thing. But I look at the team. So like right now, ETC has a pretty high difficulty for what it is, but we're mining ETC. We also were mining Ubik. I believed in Ubik since I saw it come out, because I like the concept that they're trying to do from a platform standpoint. They want to be Ethereum, but mainly for company business. If companies are going to deploy a DApp, a decentralized application, and they've written it for Ethereum, they can deploy that same DApp to Ubik without much change. So if their concept is to take the EIPs, the Ethereum improvement plans that have been vetted for more commercial type of activities, then where Ethereum is like the big playground that anybody like CryptoKitties or anybody can deploy dApps, which are the decentralized applications or smart contracts on, Ubik is one that is being more centralized around, or more focused, I shouldn't say centralized because this is decentralized, but more focused on the enterprise class of client. So I just look at that as like if somebody's trying to deploy to Ethereum and they're looking for maybe somewhere else to deploy that's more of a stable environment at the time, then Ubik's a strong runner. So investing in Ubik is a good play. Secondary, and I think the one point that's missed on a lot of platform cryptocurrencies is this, and I don't hear it talked about a lot, is if you're a platform cryptocurrency, meaning other activities such as ERC20 tokens, ICO activity, people are going to deploy dApps on your platform. If you serve nothing else but to perform the gas for a platform, and that's your only function, is where you're going to have all these other activities, all these other applications, all these other things that are going to deploy on your platform. You are essentially as a gas station. So that's where Ethereum, and even if it doesn't build its own, kind of killer app, it doesn't matter, because Ethereum is the platform that almost every ICO out there has been driven off of. So anytime you're moving or exchanging those currencies on Ethereum, you're paying in Ethereum's fuel. That's why you need a little bit of Ethereum to move your EOS or move your Civic or move any of your Bancor or your Batcoin. All those different currencies require a little bit of Ethereum to move. So if it serves nothing more than that, it's got a purpose. That's its purpose, right? It's a utility. It's a genuine, no kidding. That's what it does. So Ubik, Expanse, any of these things that are platforms, if people deploy applications, if they create ICOs and they've ERC20'd it off of those, then like Ubik is going to be the gas platform for GeoCoin and those other coins that have created coins on those. So if you look at Ethereum, you're going to see this huge hedge of different coins that have been made on it. And then if you look at Ubik, you're going to see now 3 or 4 main coins that have been produced on it. Geocoin had a huge growth, right? Yeah. So that's why, you know, I look at, you know, those kind of coins. So we're doing some buffering.
The longevity of mining, do you see its lifespan being short or long?
I think the longevity. So the question is, do we think the longevity of mining is going to be a short or long? I think mining, at least in the near-term future, in the next few years, is not going anywhere. So if you think about it in the most simplest form, look at the 29 or so main kind of cryptocurrencies that are mined that are profitable right now. All of those are proof of work. Ethereum, after its Casper release, its first Casper release, which is still not on a schedule yet, I mean, it's notional, is going to go proof of work, proof of stake, hybrid. If you look at the Caltech paper that's out there, just look up Ethereum Casper, proof of work, proof of stake. You Google that, you will find the Caltech, I think it's Caltech, paperwork that has a white paper, and then like section 2, you'll see that their first implementation of Ethereum is going to be a proof of work, proof of stake hybrid, because proof of stake isn't fully figured out, folks, that from an attack vector standpoint for something as complex as Ethereum when it comes to smart contracts. So you look at that, you look at all the other proof of work mining, Monero, again, Ubik, Expanse, Pascal coin, Decred, Sia coin. You look at all these currencies that have no plan to go proof of stake, right? You got them mining. So from the very mid to long term, you know, 2-year plus, I don't see it going anywhere. Mainly because it takes time to move those things over. Look, Ethereum's been trying to do it for 2 years, trying to move off of proof of work. And these other coins don't even have roadmaps to move off of it. So it's probably buffering because that's dark. That from that standpoint on, if you don't think of anything else and you look at these other coins don't have roadmaps to move off of proof of work, that means they're going to be building, they're going to be needing miners. Smiley says, when Ethereum goes proof of stake, I'm scared. Again, it's going to go proof of work, proof of stake hybrid the very first. So we'll all get to see it. But right now they have a proof of stake hybrid on the testnet implementation. But this is my biggest question. Is all this money that I'm spending going to be worth it? That's the same question everybody's been asking since 2012, essentially. Because 2010 through 2011, when I first started getting into Bitcoin mining back in late 2010, it was kind of like you just did it for a hobby. I mean, there wasn't even a concept that this stuff was going to be worth money. I mean, you thought it may have been, but it wasn't just, it was cool thought. 2011 into 2012, you started really thinking that, oh my God, this stuff could be worth money. What's the most amount of hash power that can be driven from RX 580? The most I've ever seen is 32.8. I've seen it touch 33 on an MSI RX 580 twin Frozer gaming GPU running Ubik with everything all topped out. I'm talking 2250 memory. I'm talking 1200. I think it was 1200 core 2250 memory. We were able to sneak in 33 mega hash.
So if
I love your old taste stories. It makes me feel better.
if a coin such as Ubik makes it to the exchanges and the hardware wallets, things like that, does that really cement them into being a coin that's going to be around for a while?
If coins make it in, so if I understand the question right, was if a coin like Ubik has been integrated with something like a hardware wallet, does that mean it's going to be around for a while? All of these cryptocurrencies, guys, like all of them that had any weight in a market cap over probably $50 million by a large account are going to be here for a long time. I mean, there's a lot of money invested in them. Proof of work currencies, I would call it by and large, if people can mine it, there's usually a counterparty that'll buy it. And that's been always the kind of thing with mining. It's been this weird scenario. Now there was some early cryptocurrencies, like when we used to mine back in 2000. Well, I wouldn't say 2012 because there wasn't money at the time. There was only Litecoin and I think Feathercoin at the time. But when it was Litecoin, Feathercoin, Dogecoin, then you had some stuff like Smartcoin. There was a couple other cryptocurrencies that kind of fell off, and I don't think anything ever happened with them. And it wasn't because the coin wasn't good or it wasn't any different than any other kind of hedge of coins. It was really because there wasn't a huge mining scene at all. And if the developers fell off if it was like an exit, the exit scams and all that stuff was just being developed then for folks. So it was kind of like they forked the currency. They had a development team that put about 2 weeks of effort into it. It got released on bitcoin.talk.org. And then it kind of went up and it kind of fell down because there wasn't really an exchange to put it on. There was these weird booking sheets on Google Docs and stuff. I mean, that people would try to counterparty it, and it was not good. But now there's enough infrastructure that if people have a team and they build stuff, it's going to be out there, and there's going to be, as long as there's exchanges that support them, and the volume's high enough of exchange volume, then they're going to be around for a while. Do you think GPU prices are going to continue to go up, or will they decrease in price again? It's all a supply and demand thing right now. There's hardly any supply. Every GPU manufacturer out there at CES was saying that there was a huge supply gap, and I was trying to relate it to some of my past experience and being in industry in general on the supply side, not with GPUs. It was actually with beer, but there's these gaps in supply when you have these forecasted build times, and you try to keep the attrition, the amount of purchase rate kind of succinct to what your production rate is. That way you don't have this huge amount of supply. And what happened essentially is the end of December, there was these forecasts that they were running on models of what their burn rates were on people buying things, and it just got sucked up real quick, and supply was in production. So we're in this gap period right now to where there's hardly any supply left, and now they're just essentially the third-party vendors that are selling on a Newegg and stuff. If anybody takes a gander on Newegg, and they're just gouging people. They're saying, you really want that 1080 Ti and you need it right now, you're going to pay me $1,500. And it's I wouldn't give it an excuse for them in any way, but if you look at it from a business standpoint, and I'm not going to justify the business because I think it's stupid to pay, charge somebody $1,500 for a GPU that costs like half that. But you can look at it like they had an expected amount of inventory and a constant flow, and if you drew them down all the way, then the last few that they have remaining, they're going to go through a period of months that they're not going to have any sales at all. And so what they're doing is they're trying to make up that margin, because they had a good month, and then they're going to have nothing for like a month, right? Unless they get high margin on those last few that they have. So that's just the back-end math issue that's going on for the companies that are the size of like Newegg that are trying to cover margins. For the like third-party vendors, they're just gouging you.
Did Cryptopedia drop LTC?
Cryptopia?
Oh, is that my phenom?
I don't know if they dropped
for me.
LTC.
Cryptopedia, that's what it says.
Cryptopia?
But it says Edia.
It's Cryptopia.
That's
Cryptopedia.
not spelled.
Cryptopia. It's Cryptopia. I call it Cryptopia. I don't know.
Well, it's spelled like Cryptopedia. You could be wrong. That's
I could be. What do you guys call it? Cryptopedia?
We're buffering horribly.
No, I see LTC on there.
That's Cryptopedia. Your phonics is horrible.
I thought it was Cryptopia.
wrote it, it had a D in it.
Oh.
Cryptopedia.
Snowstorm. We do have a snowstorm here. Buffering.
They're saying Cryptopia.
Cryptopia, yeah.
Like buffering.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with the buffering.
Ugh. I wonder what the kids are doing.
Yeah, maybe my kids are like surfing the internets. 98 frames dropped. Yeah, we got kind of a snowpocalypse going here, so. Well, maybe we'll end it right there, guys, with the with this heavy buffering that we're getting. We're gonna have. I have a few more videos, so we're going to the North American Bitcoin Conference on Wednesday. So I'm taking the equipment with me. We ordered some new camera equipment. We're gonna be really up in our game, so we do value what you guys are getting for us when it comes to, you know, doing the super chats and all that kind of stuff. We're getting snow in the fiber. We'll be bringing you guys some new content. I'm gonna have at least one more video for you guys before we take off. Probably two more and maybe one more live stream. I have a RX our R9 380X build behind me that we're going to be going through and walking you guys through some of the older cards, and then we're going to be doing at least the RX 470 Mining Edition card, the deep dive. That's going to be an episode before we leave. So so we're going to wrap this one up. Since we're getting a lot of buffering issues now, I don't want to waste your guys' time. Like, subscribe, share the video if you thought it was informative, please. And, you know, hang out, follow us on Twitter. I try to put a lot of stuff out there, and we'll bring you guys a couple more videos before the North American Bitcoin Conference. We'll be covering stuff down there. I'm going to meet some of the other crypto space YouTubers. I think Omar Bam and a few of the other folks are going to be down there. So maybe we'll have an interview there. I'm also going to be interviewing the Decred COO, or the CTO. So I've been studying that Decred white paper. I'm going to try to give you guys a good interview out there for Decred. So if you have any questions specifically pertaining to Decred, let me know, and I'll get those asked over to him. And yeah, hang out. Watch the stream, or watch Twitter for any of the updates for North American Bitcoin Conference, and we'll catch you guys here in the next few days.